In this video, I'll show you a really easy way to fill type with an image. You can then incorporate this type into a book cover or a slide for a slideshow presentation or for a print. Let's start with the cover of a book. This is the previous example where I created type that was warped for the cover that I'm using here in the book module. Now I'm going to bring this cover, this image, back into Photoshop. I'm going to right click and select Edit In, Photoshop CC. I want to be sure to edit the original because I want to go back and work on the type layers, and they'll only be available if I edit the original. And I'll select Edit. Okay, so now this is that image back open in Photoshop now. You can see all the layers are intact. We can now just re-edit the image. This is really fantastic. It's one of the great features of working this way in Photoshop. I'm going to start off by turning off this type layer, turn off the visibility of those two layers just by clicking on those icons there in the layer palette. And then I'm going to go here under Edit, and then I'm going to select Define Pattern. Okay, now see, there's the image as it is shown in the background. I don't need to give it a name. I'll just use the file name that's already been created, and I'm going to select OK. Now I'm going to go back over to the Layers palette and turn these layers back on, the visibility back on. And this time I'm going to select the title, and I'm going to go into the effects choices here under blending options. Now watch what happens when I select pattern overlay. When I click on pattern overlay and select the words pattern overlay, over here on the right we have different patterns to choose from. Well, the pattern I want to choose from is the actual image of the mountain. So I'll go ahead and select that. And you can see now that the type is being filled with that pattern. It's really very much that easy to fill that type with that image. And we can scale it using the scale slider. I'm going to be sure to select Snap to Origin. And now watch what happens when I move my cursor over here to the image. When I click and drag, the image is moving behind the type. You can see it moving. I can find the location that actually works the best. You can actually make this more dramatic. In other words, you could have more of that image showing if you use larger type. Perhaps if I turned off some of the beveling and embossing over here, the type might show the image better in the background. You can play around, but the main point is that you've got this image now and it is part of the type. It's a pattern. And you can get it just where you want it using the layer style controls over here. So once you're done with that, you select OK. So now we're back over in the layer that contains the title, and I'm going to select the Move tool by hitting the V key, and I want to move that around. You can see as I move that type around, the image behind it, pretty much it's locked into the type. I can make it work a little bit differently if I go back into the effects choices here and choose pattern overlay. And if I deselect link with layer, now watch what happens over here when I move the type around. It updates. In other words, it's now relative to the background. That is so cool. I just love what you can do with this. It's so easy to use. Good. Okay, one more example. This time I'll select a more colorful photo and follow the steps I outlined to define a pattern. I'll use the type tool to create some useful type. For example, something I can use in a slideshow. I'm going to make it really big. Now I'm going to turn off my image layer. I only needed it to define the pattern anyway. Once again, I select Effect and Blending Options and select Pattern Overlay. I'm going to go here and find that pattern from the picture. And now you can see the photograph is showing behind the type. And I can move it around by just moving my cursor over to the preview area and clicking, dragging around. like I'm doing there. Again, I can also add a bevel and emboss, a stroke, and even a drop shadow. When I'm done, I select OK. I'm going to trash the original layer, this one down here, and leave the type on its own layer. If I save this file, I'll also have access to this color type, and I can add it to any image I wish, or just use it as a slide in a slideshow presentation. It's that easy.